Lannisters can do some pretty questionable things like throwing children out windows or taking the phrase brotherly love way too literally, but can we blame them for something as huge as the Doom of Valyria? Maybe. Is it a stretch? Sure. Is it possible? Also sure. You be the judge of that. Now, I'm sure you're wondering, what do the Lannisters have to do at all with Valyria? Well, let me tell you, the common denominator, as always with the Lannisters, is gold. Valyria loves gold, Lannisters love gold. It's a match made in heaven. Except not really, because they never meet, even though these two groups, have that thing in common. Valyria wants gold. The Lannisters have gold. The Lannisters like to leverage their gold to become rich, to buy influence, to be the kings of the rock, literally. And Valyria is known for being, a greedy Roman Empire stand-in. Arguably, everything wrong with Valyria revolves around their hunger for gold. Valyria has become a slave empire because they need these slaves to mine the volcanoes around the Valyrian freehold. They need the materials in there to basically, get more wealth, whether that's gold, whether that's other minerals and irons and metals, whatever. And so Valyrian society, pre the Doom, when there was still Valyrian society, revolves around the idea of amassing more and more wealth through the subjugation of other people. But if they know that there is a giant mountain full of gold, a continent away, sure, but they got dragons, why don't they do something about it? Ding, 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 there's a prophecy. If you guess prophecy, please drop it down in the comments below and I'll give you a cookie. According to Septon Barth, who was a hand of the king to Jaehaerys Targaryen, and basically a known historian of all things dragon and Valyrian, he was really interested in all of the minutiae of how dragons work, how they function, all the mysteries, and he tried to document a lot of his stuff, and that extends to Valyria as well. Now, he proposed that the reason that there isn't any known contact between the Lannisters and the Dragon Lords comes from a prophecy that he found on an old Valyrian manuscript that, of course, has since been lost. But according to Barth, in that manuscript, there was a notation of a prophecy that essentially said that Lannister gold would be the undoing of the Valyrians. So the idea being that even though the Valyrians would have been tempted by Lannister gold, because they were worried about the cursed nature of it, they were never going to engage. They were never going to go and try to take it or something, lest they doom themselves, if you will. For those who hate puns, I do apologize. I hope to one day recover your trust. Thank you. So that would explain why the Valyrians would never get into contact with the Lannisters. They are protecting themselves lest they tempt fate and everything goes, kablooey. But what if the Lannisters actually did end up slipping the Valyrians some gold, and that is what's led to the Doom because their gold was cursed? Well, everyone say hello to Bright Roar, House Lannister's Valyrian steel sword. Now, during the height of the Valyrian Empire, it was very in vogue in Westeros for all of the great houses to procure a Valyrian steel sword. Valyrian steel was, of course, the best steel in the world. It was ideal for all of the weaponry, and it's very expensive and very precious because it is so good. So as a status symbol, all of the great houses wanted to have a family sword, and House Lannister was no different, hence Bright Roar. But how did the family procure Bright Roar? How did they get a Valyrian steel sword if Valyria, doesn't want their gold because it's possibly cursed? Well, we're not entirely sure, but we know that they get it, so someone slipped up. So about 100 years before the Doom of Valyria, House Lannister is able to procure their Valyrian steel sword. Exactly where they get it is unsure, but most people would assume that you procure a Valyrian steel sword in Valyria, where those, smiths are. And it said that the amount of gold that they had to spend to procure it was enough to buy an entire army. But instead, they get the one, pointy swing. Rich people in their purchases, I don't fucking know, Now again, while the text doesn't specify and say that, this Lannister traveled to Valyria and got this sword from this blacksmith, yada, 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 the general assumption is that if you are purchasing a Valyrian sword, you are purchasing it from Valyria. That is probably where most of the families got their swords. So it's at this point that we can assume that some Lannister gold changed hands and now is in the possession of the Valyrians. And then, 100 years later, everything goes kaboom. Kaboom! Now, because obviously this is a theory, and so there's tons of speculation, we don't know exactly why, if they did, the Valyrians would accept the Lannister gold at this point. Did they not know about that prophecy? Did they not care about that prophecy? Have they gotten, like really high on their horse and like, I don't care, no prophecy is gonna end me, I'm Valyrian. I got lizard fire nukes, what you gonna do about it? Or is it simply a case of the Lannisters just offered too much money? Again, if it was enough gold to procure an entire army and they are wanting to spend that just for a sword, that's probably like a deal that someone would be hard pressed to ignore. Whatever the case may be, though, whether the Valyrians knew about the prophecy, didn't know, knew, and didn't care, gold changed hands. A century later, Valyria went up in flames. Now, is it related? Is it cause and effect? Who knows? We truly, nothing is known about the Doom of Valyria. There's 1,001 explanations for why it happened, what could have caused it, and this is just one of many. Though, again, it's just interesting that there are so many of these, little tidbits that point to Valyria's greed ultimately being the cause of it. So many of the theories about Valyria, whether it was the faceless men, whether it was the fire mages losing too many of them and the volcanoes becoming destabilized, whether it's Lannister gold, so much of it revolves around Valyria getting too arrogant, getting too, comfortable with their greed and the way that they abuse the world for it, that eventually it catches up to them and, again, just everything kablooey. Regardless of what ultimately caused the doom, there is some irony along with Brightroar here, because Brightroar does not exist into the modern day of the series. House Lannister doesn't have a Valyrian steel sword until Tywin Lannister gets creative with Ice, Ned Stark's sword. Tywin, you really suck. What happens to Brightroar? Well, in an ironic twist, in the century after the Doom of Valyria, it's known as the Century of Blood, a lot of people got really greedy because of the power vacuum that Valyria's disappearance caused in the world, and people saw that as an opportunity to get rich, to get all the wealth, to get all the influence, etc. And the Lannisters are no different. The Lannisters, specifically Tommen II Lannister, King of the Rock, decided that, hey, I'm going to marshal all of my forces and we're gonna go to the ruins of old Valyria so that we can basically gather all of the leftover gold and riches and sorcery stuff, and we're gonna bring it back and we're all gonna be rich. Because it's not like you already have a literal mountain full of gold. But that's not enough. The mountain full of gold isn't enough. We need more. We need more riches, because it's almost like billionaires are not happy unless every single drop of wealth has been drained from the world and is in their pockets. Sorry, that just came out. So Tommen II marshaled all his forces, got a giant golden fleet of Lannister ships together, and sailed for Valyria. They stopped, the last place that they were heard of was their stop in Volantis, where they basically convinced the Volantines to basically hey, help us out, give us some supplies and stuff, and when we come back with all of the riches, we'll give you half of it for being so nice to us right now. And the Volantines are like, yeah, no skin off my back, you can go try, and best case scenario, we're rich. Worst case scenario, I don't know, we got a cool story out of it, bro. So Tommen II, with the Golden Fleet and wielding Brightroar, sailed into Valyria, never to be seen again. Truly, what a shocking turn of events. Because Brightroar went with him, it was never seen again either. It's just there somewhere in Valyria, probably, and I don't know. Maybe we'll see it if, Euron shows up with it again or something. I don't know. He does things. But tell me, what do you think? Do you think of the 112 theories around the Doom of Valyria that the Lannister gold can really be blamed? What other theories do you want me to talk about? Drop them in the comments. You're all really cool. Okay, good night. Bye-bye.